Hey, man.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm ready for the weekend. Otherwise, I'm
Right.
okay.
It's a whole nother day still, but it's coming. It's coming soon.
Don't. I know.
Uh, what's going on with HA proxy?
What's up with HA proxy?
There's a bunch of noisy. It's only warning. I think it's. I think we should remove this. Should probably take my hat off because otherwise all you see is my hat. Uh,
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Sorry, I'm still loving Zoom. So, welcome. Awesome. Thanks for adding in all the updates, Skabek. Super helpful. So, first up, reviewing the blockers. So, up first, 2334. Skabek, your comment is closed, which is great. So, next up, we've got the logging across cloud native GitLab installations. So the way I've interpreted this is that only there's three issues prioritized. So
It sounds like because we decided to revert this, it looks like distribution needs to revisit how they want to perform the logging work as a whole. If you go to the thread that is linked, or at the very bottom of that issue, Robert Marshall is proposing a few items. We should figure out what we want to accomplish here and help drive their direction. I personally don't want them to stop working on this because I think it'd be highly valuable if we could at least contribute to the logging data that comes out from them. So if they can continue working on this, at least for Sidekick, I think that would be beneficial, and we could just enable and disable as needed. That allows us, as they make the changes, we could test it out and see if it meets our needs. Make sure we don't blow up our own Elasticsearch cluster, for example. I know there's other product updates that need to happen in order to get logging to work as they are envisioning. So I think they themselves are still blocked in a certain case, but I think if we could at least get the logging mechanism in place that they're trying to, I think that'd be beneficial. But
what do you suggest?
cool. Okay.
I suggest that they continue the work and maybe see. He's got two options, which is dumping.
Let me rephrase. What will you write to them in a comment?
I would suggest that they choose option 2 that he's provided, which is the dropping everything of the 4 except for the one, I think it was Sidekick. they want to pick one. They've already started one, so it would be great if we could get that pushed through. So choose option 2. Preferably if we could add it behind a feature flag, would be my suggestion, and that's how I would respond.
So what I usually do when I don't like any of the options, I put up another option. So
Which technically is a third option because they don't have this behind a feature flag at all. And I think that would be helpful. That way we don't have to revert things, causing problems with our clusters,
I wouldn't call
Elasticsearch
it a feature
clusters.
flag. I would call it something else because it shouldn't be a feature flag. I think we talked about it when we were reverting this whole thing. Was the problem was there was no control over what is happening now, whether it's a feature flag or not. I guess it's a philosophical discussion more than anything, but what I would expect is to have a chart configuration, because that is where you can actually configure things, because you can't control anything inside of the image otherwise, right? So
Yep.
whatever they end up choosing, however they want to call it, yes, I think that would be a good option to go with.
Okay.
Like having an option where you can roll it out, I guess. Roll
Precisely.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'll word it as friendly as I can there, but I'll respond to this thread after this meeting.
Awesome. I also wasn't, from just scanning through, I'm also not super clear. So Robert has a comment, which is about the starting point, potential starting points. And then he's got another comment further down, which goes on about the 4 approaches, which I thought were about the 4 issues that are scheduled in 13.7. But I'm not 100% sure. But that was how I interpreted it.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand as well. Yeah, there, from the 4 options listed there are actually a couple of different things conflated here. I wouldn't confuse the things further. I would just repeat the request that Skarbek just made.
Yeah, I don't want to muddy the waters. It sounds like he needs to do some more evaluation that I think is outside of our realm.
Yeah, there is like a larger story here. If I understand, you're right, Amy. If I understand correctly, this is where distribution actually needs to work with the application teams and figure out what is the actual general story. This is not up to us, an infrastructure department. We should participate, but on the same level as everyone else, because we are adding feedback, but actually someone needs to be operating the story across all of the groups, projects, services.
Mm-hmm. Cool, that makes sense. Related to this one, I don't believe this is still the case. We've got a comment that this is a blocker for moving past Canary for Git SSH. I hope that's not true.
I think it would be, because API and web, they're going to have... I don't like our logs. I think we're going to really blow up our Elasticsearch clusters if we attempt to move API and web traffic over into Kubernetes as is. And I don't want to cause pain on the people that manage our Elasticsearch clusters, because that will cause a lot of pain in other areas as well, especially incident management.
Okay, but it's not a blocker for Git SSH though, right? But it is a
Well, Git
concern
SSH is
for the
done.
API.
It's not going to be a blocker for WebSockets because we receive so little traffic for that. So I think for the time being we're okay, but we need to make sure that it is still a blocker for web and API, in my opinion.
So I guess it's not a specific blocker for a specific thing, but it's a general blocker that we are now choosing to ignore. So we shouldn't be dropping this whole story anyway, right? It's just going to get progressively worse as more we migrate. But I think there is a lot of requests we are putting forward with them. It would be good if you and Jarv or one of the two of you interact with people in the observability team to figure out what actually structure we want to see, to provide them a bit of a feedback from our side before they start talking with other teams, because I'm suspecting there is going to be either a lot of opinions or no opinions at all, because not many developers actually do care about how the log looks.
I agree. Maybe I'll try to set up a meeting with a few people, if possible, to see if we can't at least provide some guidance or pointers.
Or just like continue. There is a discussion in one of those issues that are linked in the epic. I invited Mikhail and Igor, just maybe coordinate a bit there. Try to do async a bit.
Sounds
Awesome.
good.
Cool. So
I think we can remove bullet point 4 right there.
cool. Oh, I know I didn't remove it already. Do you happen to know if, it's probably for you, Andrew, these comments that you added in, your requests, do you know if they're somewhere other than this doc?
Sorry, I haven't been paying attention because I was trying to help Hendrik with the production incident.
That's all
I'm
right. So
looking
these
right
bits-
now.
Yeah, it's just good. I almost deleted them earlier, and I thought maybe this was like the single source of truth.
Let me try find it quickly. We are
So it's
at
1A4 and then bullet points. There is
1A4.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Request for changes to GitLab logger date. Oh yes, some points from my side. No, I don't think I put that in anywhere else. I will do that now and put something in place right now, because yes, it needs a better home. Thank you. Sorry
Awesome.
about that.
No problem. That's fine. Awesome.
Some of those notes are kind of logged in the issue I just dropped right above that section. Not everything though.
Awesome.
I'll
Cool.
add it to that. Cool.
Great. And this is why we derailed you last time as well, Andrew, because we've got a request for you straight after that one as well, which is about the labels.
Yes. So I did some work this morning. Jarv put the Mailroom and the plant UML labels on, and I basically tried to bring them in line, like especially plant UL, because neither of them were really in the metrics catalog, and plant UML was not in the service catalog either. So I did some work around that. And when I did that, I could see that the plant UML stuff was not working still. So something needs to be done there, but I pinged Jarv on that. And the most important thing for me is still the deployment labels on the horizontal scaler. And so I don't know if there's been any work on that, because that will help us quite a lot.
It doesn't look like
do you know
we've
the
done
issue
anything yet.
Yeah. Like when we gave Graham that demo the other day, the first thing he said was, yeah, we're really good to get the HPA, and we can't do it until we got the labels. And there was also a minor incident the other day where it would have helped. So yeah, those would be great.
Hey, Jeff, we're just going through the labels. So actually, Andrew, the Mailroom one's done. I think 1375.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Mailroom is good. Plant UML is done but not good, from what I could see. But we didn't actually have an issue for plant UML, so I think that was kind of a bonus from Jarv, but it doesn't seem to be working. And then that's okay. What's this 524? Is this still open? Oh, it's merged. Okay. So this adds, okay, so maybe this has been done. If this is done, then I will start working on those things. So I will open an issue for that. I'll put that in here.
Awesome. Cool. And then Pages is progressing along quite nicely, actually. So there's plans for testing and preparing next steps in the migration are being planned out. So looking hopeful. Cool. Anything else anyone wants to cover on blockers? Awesome. Okay, so going down to discussion, Scarbeck.
Okay, so I've got two epics that are, I think, populated with at least the start of what we need for these. One is the Helm 3 upgrade, and the other is the work for WebSockets. If I'm missing an issue, I know the Helm upgrade is definitely missing issues because I know we need to test things before we develop a full plan. But for the WebSockets, hopefully everything is in place, that we have everything we need to start that work. So I guess the main question is, what do we want to start picking on next? Because currently I'm kind of sifting through some of the lower hanging items that we've got in our tech debt epic, and also just pulling some of the P1s that have come across us in the last few weeks due to some incidents and such. I know Helm version 2 is no longer supported. We've surpassed end of life as of November, so it'd be wise to pull that one. We could also potentially do this work in parallel, but just looking for opinions, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the overall goal for the quarter is the APIs. So what do we like? What would be blocking the APIs today?
Logging work. From the distribution team.
The blocker. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
I think WebSockets would be a relatively quicker one to work on historically compared to everything else historically, just because it's already running in Kubernetes. It's just a matter of separating that traffic out into its own configuration inside of our HA proxies, and then making sure we capture the metrics dedicated for WebSockets and creating the dashboards for such. Lower blast radius because it receives such little traffic in comparison as well.
With WebSockets, is that we need to do it in terms of does the API have dependencies of some kind that would help us, or is it is small enough that we think we could just get through it?
Jared, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I would go with the latter. It's small enough that we could just get through it and rock it out.
I mean, it's small enough if we just keep with WebSockets as they are now, but the idea here was also to enable action cable, and that we need to go through a readiness review, talk to developers to see whether we think we're ready. But yeah, I think in general, like, there's nothing preventing us right now from creating the WebSockets service and getting it, like getting a WebSockets dashboard ready for it, and and just getting the WebSockets traffic routed properly.
What do we gain by doing this ahead of the APIs?
As far as where I stand right now, I feel like APIs probably should be blocked by the Nginx upgrade as well as the Helm upgrade. And I think also possibly the WebSockets work should be blocked by the Helm upgrade. I think we should just focus on that, get that done, get that finished before we do anything else, because this is going to be like the traffic split probably, where we're going to have to do a coordinated cluster upgrade. And since it's going to touch the regional cluster, it might be even messier.
So,
but Scarlett, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't really know the full extent of the upgrade impact, right?
Not yet. We need to test it. That's the first issue created on that epic. We did this
So
once before. We hit a blocker. Part of that was just due to not testing thoroughly enough. Distribution has documented what the blockers are, so I think it'd be wise if we retest with a GKE cluster versus our previous testing method, which was just using Minikube. It was an inaccurate representation of what we were running at the time.
Are we, I saw that you had an issue to create a new pre-prod cluster. Is there any reason why we can't just apply this to the existing pre-prod cluster to see?
I don't want to break pre-prod. We could potentially use that cluster. I just didn't want to break that cluster entirely if something went wrong. I guess it's not hard to rebuild it though, so maybe that's sufficient enough.
I would just like use pre-prod as it is.
Okay.
I think we can easily, I mean, worst case, we're down for like an hour or two, and I don't think that's a big deal for pre-prod, and it's only down for Git HTTPS and, you know, Sidekick. We could even actually like divert traffic to the VMs. We may even, I think we still have the Git VM. There's like one Git VM for pre-prod, and then for Sidekick, we could even, let me just say, it's probably faster for us to spin up a Sidekick VM than it is to spin up a new cluster in pre-prod and deploy to it, right?
Yeah, you're right. That's easier.
cool. Okay, so what I am hearing is, so we've got the API work, which we believe is blocked by an Nginx upgrade. We think we should be doing WebSockets before that, and that's blocked. We'd need a readiness review, and we also have the Helm 3 work.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So Helm 3, I believe, Marian, correct me if I'm wrong, you want this completed before we do the next service migration.
Yes.
So,
because I want to get it over and done with and see all of the breakage that we get to see before we move. I mean, I'm not saying the traffic we have right now is not impactful, but it's going to be less impactful. Now, another thing that worried me in Jar's statement is the mention of a regional cluster and how that's going to get complicated with an upgrade. Do we need to think about Helm 4 upgrades? I'm just giving an example, right? Like the next foundational upgrade that needs to happen. Do we want to figure out, is there a way for us to do this now? If that means the additional cluster that has no traffic in general, or I don't know, like I'm just spitballing here, but basically the point I'm trying to make is, how do we make sure that we do it as painless as possible now so that we don't have to do it as painful as possible later? Because I'm not really sure I follow exactly what the pain is, because zonal clusters, I get it, right? Like it's simple for us to just take the zonal clusters out of rotation, redirect the traffic, upgrade, move back, and so on. But the regional cluster is always taking traffic, or what?
The regional cluster doesn't have an Nginx ingress at all, except for Canary. But in the GitLab namespace, in Canary, we can just drain and forget about. So for the main namespace, we don't have any ingress at all. Since we moved registry to the zonal clusters, nothing. So it's all Sidekick. And Sidekick is tricky because we have, like, it's not, we could spin up a new cluster and then we could activate sidekick jobs, but then you would have jobs running on both, and some of our queues are throttled, so we don't want to run them like, you know, in two clusters simultaneously. We would have to think about how that would be done.
So that would actually get my vote. Like Helm 3, obviously, right? Like we want to get that over and done with. But it's obvious that there is some preparational work that needs to be done, because Skarbek did that, what was it, a year ago? Skarbek or something like that. So things have moved on. It would be good to actually start on that. And then also figure, while we wait for the Nginx upgrade to get merged, chart upgrade to get merged, we can then roll that out separately. And then also at the same time, we can maybe start thinking about what do we do with the regional cluster? And at the same point, we can actually ask developers of Action Cable stuff to write up the readiness review. So we kind of parallelize all of that work in one go while we wait for the logging work to be completed for the API. So we're talking about like 5 different parallel things, not all of it on us, but some of it, yeah. With what, 10 days to go until everyone is gone?
Yeah.
I'm in favor of just focusing on the Helm 3 upgrade.
I would agree now.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
The only thing I was wondering, do you know, Jav, have you already spoken to developers about the Action Cable readiness review?
No, I have not talked to them about that.
It might be worth getting them started on it, and they could be working like whilst we're doing Helm 3, and then when we're done with Helm 3, hopefully we'll have something to build on.
Yeah, that sounds fine. I don't know, like, yeah, I'll talk to them to see what they say.
Cool. The only other thing I was going to also ask about was well, not the only other thing, but one other thing I was going to ask about was we've got this observability epic. Let me just show my screen. And what I would like is to try and give that a bit of a scope so that at some point we can close that off rather than it just being the epic that's going to be open forever. So within this epic, how much of this stuff do we need to get completed before we do the API? So what I was thinking is we could maybe frame this around cluster observability and troubleshooting to support API traffic, and then we could have another one in the future.
I added those items in the description under exit criteria, and this is what I was thinking at a minimum we should complete before we do the next migration. These should probably be linked to specific issues, but this was just like off the top of my head. What in the epic we should definitely focus on before we do API. I don't know, like, is there anything else we should add to that list?
Personally, I think a lot of these really should be on that list. Like, all these are of decent priority in my opinion, but.
Well, that's okay, but I mean, we might need to work on some of this stuff in parallel. Is there anything that like isn't covered in that list of exit criteria that we should do before we work on API?
No, that's probably fine.
Could we get that list then? So could we get these issues to be the ones we want to match that list?
Yeah.
In some way.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. And then what I'm hoping is that will mean we can get on our epic, we'll be able to have observability and troubleshooting, and we can get that wrapped up for the API stuff. Got Helm 3 on there as well. And then, oh, I need to add in the API one that you created, Skarbek. So we're looking at roughly this, sorry, go on.
I believe the API one is mixed in with the web traffic number 272.
Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. Yep. Okay, cool.
We should consider splitting that off because
Yeah.
it's a discrete amount.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Okay.
Okay.
Skarbek, a question for you before we continue further is, nothing is preventing us from, no, this is not a question, this is a statement. So let me ask a question. Are we even able to upgrade to Helm 3 and run both 2 and 3 at the same time across clusters?
We could run, our tooling needs to support that. It currently does not, so no. But we also need to take care of that. We both have our own Helm repo for the GitLab com stuff, and we also have the components for GitLab Helm files. So the tooling upgrade is going to enable us to run both Helm versions. But once we upgrade one cluster, we need some way to tell our tooling to use Helm 3 for that cluster.
Oh my God, that sounds
Miserable.
challenging.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think if I was more keen on software development, it wouldn't be a terrible thing to accomplish, but
It has nothing to do with software development.
Well, all of our scripting is Bash, so from a hypothetical standpoint, you know, we should be able to pull that kind of thing off. But I think it would be, I think when we perform the testing, we'll know where our blockers are going to be, and hopefully we could develop a plan of action based on that information.
Okay. The reason why I ask is there is a natural pause point in this effort, which would be upgrading the zonal clusters and having them run on 3 and leaving the regional cluster running on 2 to use it as a feeding point for the making it simpler to upgrade regional cluster as a exercise.
It would be fun to find out that upgrading the regional cluster is a breeze just because there's nothing that blocks us. And then it's just our zonal clusters that are questionable because those are the ones that contain the Nginx ingress work. But
up to you. Okay.
We'll find out.
Thanks.
Cool. And then for the epics that we have in progress, I'll consider Helm 3 in progress for this testing one. Could you both get the issues that like your next round of issues ready and onto the build board?
Yeah, I could do it.
Awesome. Cool. Is there anything we need to do to help?
I do want to ask, do we want to see if we can involve Graham into this effort, but like from day 0?
He's out until late December. He's on PTO.
Slacker.
Of course, it comes from you.
Skarbek, how about we should decide like who's gonna DRI the Helm 3 upgrade? You're release management. You're doing release management as well.
Yeah, hopefully that
Maybe,
ends come December 22nd, though.
Sure, but we're gonna crank this out like before New Year's, right?
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, okay. How about I think there are two major things that we need to focus on. One is the Helm 3 upgrade and one is the logger stuff, just because like I feel like we're stalled right now with our feedback saying that we are like, we definitely can't turn this on. So I think we need a DRI for the logging stuff and for the Helm 3. Maybe I should start with the Helm 3 since you're busy with RMing, and for the logging stuff. Did we discuss, I'm sorry, I missed it early in the meeting. Did we discuss what the next steps are there? I saw that Andrew's giving them their feedback, and but it looks like it's completely stalled.
The feedback we're going to provide is something along the lines of having them do a different option than what Robert has proposed, which is continue the work as necessary for at least one component, but they're going to push it behind a configurable option to enable or disable logging as a whole. That way, well, logging using the new mechanism. That way we could turn it on and off and test as needed to help them and provide feedback as they continue to work on it.
Okay, so this is realistically not going to happen until January. Best case.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. So then it sounds like we should just focus on Helm.
And observability.
Yeah,
as well, right?
observability. Yeah.
If you're going to tell me now there is not enough work, we're going to have a longer discussion.
There's plenty of work.
There's plenty of work.
I don't know. I'm good at making work for myself. That's not a problem.
I think there's
We can
enough
also
work
help.
where we don't need to pull anything else, and there's still enough crap to be done.
Cool.
So, okay.
Okay,
Is that a plan?
that's the plan. I'm going to start fleshing out the Helm topic then. And Scarbeck, I think what I'm going to do is like move traffic over to VMs in pre-prod so that we can mess around with that cluster. And let's just see if maybe it'll be a breeze. Maybe it'll just work.
Let's hope so.
Okay, cool.
Fantastic. Okay. Is there anything else anyone wants to bring up or cover today?
I can't think of anything.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, enjoy the rest of your days. Thanks very much.
Bye.